The morning sun rose over New Haven like it had done 1,000 times before. The sky was bright blue, clearer than anything on Earth. Children ran through the grass fields laughing as they chased each other. Their parents watched from nearby, smiling at the simple joy of a peaceful day. Commander Jake Morrison stood on the colony's central platform, watching the community below. 15,000 people called this place home now. 3 years of hard work had built something beautiful here on Kepler 442b. Farms stretched across the valleys. Research stations dotted the hills. Homes filled with families who had traveled across the stars for a better life. Dr. Lisa Grant walked up beside him, carrying a data pad. She was tired but happy. Her science team had just discovered a new type of plant that could help Earth's food shortage. Good news to send home. Beautiful day, she said, looking out at the colony. Jake nodded. Every day here feels like a gift. Hard to believe we're so far from home. On Earth, billions of people watched New Haven's daily broadcasts. The colony sent back videos of their progress, their discoveries, their lives. It gave hope to a crowded planet. It showed that humanity's future lay among the stars. Nobody on Earth or New Haven knew that other eyes watched those broadcasts too. In the darkness between stars, High Commander Vexthor of the Zithra Dominion reviewed the human transmissions. His scaled face twisted into what his species considered a smile. These humans were weak, soft creatures who wasted resources on children and art. They had stumbled into space that belonged to the Dominion. The Zithara had conquered 17 species before. Each time the method was the same. Find their weakness, strike without mercy, make the survivors fear. Fear was the foundation of the Dominion's power. Vexthor had watched the humans carefully. He saw how they loved their young, how they celebrated families, how they treasured peace. He found their weakness, and he decided to send them a message they would never forget. Prepare the fleet, he ordered his officers. We strike the colony, and we make sure every human watches. Back on New Haven, the community gathered for the weekly market day. Farmers brought fresh vegetables. Artists displayed their work. Children played games in the square. It was ordinary. It was perfect. It was everything they had hoped for when they left Earth. Jake's security team was small. 20 men and women with light weapons. Their job was to handle accidents and settle small disputes. New Haven had no enemies. They needed no army. Lisa was showing a group of children the new plant species when the alarm sounded. Not the regular warning system. Emergency protocols. Something was coming. Jake ran to the command center. His screens showed massive ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel above the planet. Ships bigger than anything humanity had ever built. Ships with weapons that made his blood run cold. Get everyone to shelters, he ordered. His hands moved fast across the controls, trying to activate defenses that were never meant for real war. The colony's communication system went dead. Everything except the outgoing broadcast to Earth. The one channel that sent their daily videos home. Someone wanted Earth to watch. On Earth, President Helen Carter was in a meeting when her aide burst through the door. Madam President, New Haven is under attack. Within minutes, every screen on Earth showed the same image. The view from New Haven's cameras. Alien warships in the sky, weapons charging. Jake grabbed his rifle and ran outside. His security team formed up around him, faces pale but determined. They had families here, children here. They would fight with everything they had. The first strike hit the power station. The explosion shook the ground. Fire rose into that perfect blue sky. Lisa herded children toward the research bunkers, underground tunnels that might protect them. She counted heads as they ran. 300 children, some crying, some too scared to cry. She got them through the doors and sealed them inside. Stay quiet, she told them. Stay together. Help is coming. She knew help was light years away, but she smiled for them anyway. The Zithra warriors came down in dropships. They moved through the colony with weapons raised. They shot anyone who ran. They burned homes while families screamed inside. Jake's team fired back. Their bullets bounced off alien armor, but they kept fighting. They died defending people who could not defend themselves. On Earth, billions watched in horror. Parents covered their children's eyes, but they could not look away themselves. The broadcast showed everything. The Zithara made sure of it. President Carter's hands gripped her desk until her knuckles turned white. Around her, military leaders shouted. Diplomats tried to establish contact with the attackers, Nothing worked. The slaughter continued. Lisa stood at the bunker entrance facing 3 Zathera warriors. She had a small pistol. They had weapons that could level buildings. It did not matter. Behind her were 300 children. She would not move. She fired every shot. Hit nothing that mattered. When the gun clicked empty, she threw it at them and raised her fists. The Zathera laughed. The sound was picked up by cameras and broadcast across human space. Then they killed her. Jake died defending the medical center. His last shot saved a dozen people who ran out the back. He fell knowing he had bought them a few more minutes. In war, minutes were lifetimes. The massacre lasted 6 hours. The Zathera were not in a hurry. They wanted humanity to see every moment, every death, every tear, every scream. When it ended, High Commander Vexthor stood in the center of the ruined colony. Fires burned around him. Bodies lay in the streets. The few buildings still standing were empty shells. He looked directly at the camera. His translator device made his words clear in every human language. "This is what happens to those who enter Dominion space," he said. "Go back to your little planet. Stay there. Forget the stars. Or every human colony will burn like this one." The broadcast cut out. On Earth, silence fell across the planet. Cities that never stopped making noise went quiet. Billions of people sat in shock, tears running down their faces. Then the rescue ships found the survivors. 17 children emerged from the deep research bunkers where Lisa had hidden them. 17 out of 15,000. Children who had heard the attack above them. Who had waited in the dark. Who had survived. The youngest was 6 years old. Her name was Sophie Lane. When the soldiers found her, she asked only one question. "Where is my mom?" The soldier who carried her out cried. He was not the only one. Earth's government convened an emergency session. Every nation sent representatives. For the first time in human history, the entire planet spoke with one voice. President Carter addressed the world. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned with something that made people lean forward in their seats. "They wanted us to see," she said quietly. "They wanted us to be afraid. They wanted us to give up our dreams of the stars." She paused. They made a mistake. Around the world, recruitment offices opened their doors. By morning, lines stretched for miles. Young and old, rich and poor, people who had never held a weapon, people who thought war was ancient history. They came to enlist. They came for New Haven. They came for the children who would never come home. Admiral Richard Blake received a call in the middle of the night. By dawn, he stood before the military council with plans that had been classified for decades. Plans for weapons too terrible to build. Plans for a fleet made for war, not exploration. "How long?" the president asked. 6 months, Blake said. "Give me 6 months and I will give you vengeance." The word spread across Earth like wildfire. In every language, in every home, on every screen, vengeance. The Zathara thought they had sent a message of fear. Instead, they had awakened something humanity thought they had left behind. Something primal and terrible. Something that remembered every child's face from those broadcasts. Humanity was going to war, and God help anyone who stood in their way. The footage played everywhere. On phones, on public screens, in homes and offices. Nobody could escape it. Nobody wanted to. The world needed to remember. Needed to burn those images into their minds until the pain turned into something else, something useful. President Helen Carter did not sleep for 3 days after New Haven. She watched the footage repeatedly, memorizing every face, every child who died while Earth watched helplessly. Her advisors begged her to rest. She refused. "They need to see that we remember," she said. "Every single one." The political landscape changed overnight. Arguments that had divided nations for centuries vanished. Left and right, east and west, north and south. None of it mattered anymore. Earth had one enemy now, one purpose. Admiral Richard Blake walked through the military research facility deep under Colorado. Scientists and engineers worked around the clock. Their projects, once considered too dangerous or too aggressive, now received unlimited funding. Dr. Paul Henderson met him at the secure lab. The physicist looked exhausted but focused. He had lost a niece at New Haven, a bright girl who wanted to study the stars. Now she was part of them. "Show me what you have," Blake said. Paul pulled up holographic displays, weapons that bent the laws of physics, drives that could push ships faster than anything in known space, armor that could withstand attacks no human had faced before. We stopped developing these because we had no enemies, Paul said. We thought we had evolved past the need for this kind of destruction. He looked at Blake with hard eyes. We were wrong. Blake studied the designs. Railguns that could punch through planetary shields, missiles that accelerated continuously, antimatter warheads, gravitational disruptors, each one capable of devastating destruction. How long? Blake asked. 4 months for the first batch. 6 months for full production. Make it 5 total. Paul nodded. We will work faster. Across Earth, factories retooled their assembly lines. Car plants built armor plating. Electronics manufacturers produced targeting systems. Shipyards that once constructed colony vessels now welded together warships. The economy should have collapsed. Instead, it roared to life. People worked for free. Companies donated resources. Every human alive wanted to contribute to what came next. Katie Sullivan stood in the recruitment line in New York. She was 24 years old, a teacher before New Haven. Her sister had been a farmer on the colony. Her 2 nephews, ages 8 and 10, had loved to explore the hills. She watched them die on the broadcast. Saw them running. Saw the Zithera shoot them down like animals. The recruiting officer looked at her application. You have no military experience. I can learn, Katie said. Her voice was steady. I need to learn. Something in her eyes made the officer nod. He had seen that look in thousands of applicants. The look of someone who had lost everything and found purpose in the ashes. Welcome to the fleet, he said. Stories like Katie's repeated across the planet. Millions enlisted. The military had to turn people away. Not because they were unqualified. Because there were too many volunteers. Agent Chris Dalton worked in a different kind of service. Intelligence. His job was to find information that others wanted hidden. Before New Haven, he tracked criminals and terrorists. Now he had a new target, the Zithara. His team had recovered pieces of alien technology from the attack. Computer systems, communication devices, navigation equipment. They spent weeks cracking the encryption, learning the language, understanding how the Dominion operated. We are in, his partner, Agent Nicole Price, said one morning. She looked at her screens with satisfaction. I have access to their communication network. Chris leaned over her shoulder. Data flowed across the display. Fleet movements. Supply routes. Command structures. And something else, coordinates, is that what I think it is? He asked. Nicole smiled grimly. Zith Prime, their homeworld. We know where they live. The information went straight to Admiral Blake. He studied the star charts with his command staff. Captain Greg Norton, who would lead the first attack group, traced the route with his finger. They are not even hiding, Greg said. They think we are no threat. They are about to learn differently, Blake replied. 5 months after New Haven, the fleet was ready. 147 warships, each one built for a single purpose, war. They were not beautiful like colony ships. They were hard angles and weapon ports, armor thick enough to survive nuclear strikes, engines powerful enough to chase down any enemy. The crews that boarded them were different too. They had trained harder than any military force in history. 18-hour days. Every simulation focused on one goal. Kill Zithara. Survive. Kill more Zithara. Katie Sullivan graduated top of her class in gunnery school. She could hit a target the size of a fist from 10 miles away. Her instructors said she had natural talent. She said she had motivation. They assigned her to the UES Retribution, a heavy cruiser mounting enough firepower to level a city. She reported for duty with her small bag of belongings and a photo in her pocket, her nephew smiling on a sunny day that would never come again. Lieutenant Amy Foster climbed into her fighter cockpit for the first time. The strike craft was small, fast, and deadly. It used gravity manipulation for movements that would kill a normal pilot. She had survived the training that killed 3 of her classmates. She did not do it for glory. She did it for a boy named Danny who used to live next door before his family moved to New Haven. He was 12 when he died. She had taught him to ride a bike. Admiral Blake addressed the fleet before they departed. Thousands of crew members watched on screens throughout the ships. He did not give them a stirring speech about duty or honor. He told them the truth. The Zithara wanted us to watch our children die, he said quietly. They wanted to break our spirit. Make us afraid. Send us crawling back to Earth, he paused. They failed. We are not going out there for conquest. We are not going for territory. We are going to make them understand what they took from us. The fleet jumped to faster-than-light speed. Earth disappeared behind them. Ahead lay Dominion space. Ahead lay enemies who thought humans were weak. They were going to learn. On Zith Prime, High Commander Vex Thor received reports of human activity. Ship construction. Military mobilization. It amused him. These primitive creatures thought they could challenge the Dominion. Let them come, he told his officers. We will destroy their fleet and then finish what we started. Every human world will burn, his subordinates cheered. None of them had studied human history. None of them knew what happened when humanity went to war with itself. The destruction. The weapons. The absolute refusal to surrender. If they had known, they would not have cheered. The first target was a Zithara military outpost in the Talon sector. A supply station that supported 3 battle fleets. Defenses designed to withstand any assault. Garrison of 5,000 warriors. Captain Greg Norton's battle group dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of weapons range. His communications officer sent a message to the station. Not a demand for surrender. Not a warning, just a video file. The station commander opened it. His screen filled with faces. Human children. Hundreds of them, thousands, every child who died at New Haven, their school photos, their smiles, their names. Then 4 words appeared in Zithara language. This is for them. The attack lasted 4 minutes. Human railguns fired projectiles at a fraction of light speed. The station's shields, designed for energy weapons, did nothing. The rounds punched through armor like paper. Missiles followed. Not the slow, trackable weapons the Zithara knew. These accelerated continuously. Dodging was impossible. Shooting them down was impossible. They simply arrived and exploded. The station broke apart. Escape pods launched. Norton's ships let them go. This was not about killing survivors. This was about sending a message. When it ended, Norton sent another transmission. This one went to every Zithara communication channel in the sector. New Haven, remember that name. Because we do. News of the attack spread through Dominion space. At first, Zithara commanders dismissed it. 1 outpost. Lucky strike. Human desperation. Then the second target fell. Then the third. Then the fourth. Each time the same pattern. A video of New Haven's children. 4 words. Overwhelming attack. Total destruction. The Dominion had ruled through fear for centuries. Now, for the first time, they felt it themselves. Admiral Blake coordinated the campaign from his flagship. His strategy was simple. Target military installations. Destroy them completely. Move to the next target. Never stop. Never slow down. Make them understand that humanity was not coming for negotiation. Humanity was coming for blood. Katie Sullivan fired her first shots in combat at the Battle of Zarian Gate, a Zithara cruiser thought it could engage the Retribution in close combat. She targeted its engines with her railgun. Her first shot missed by inches. Her second shot went through the engine core. The cruiser died. She felt nothing. No satisfaction, no joy. Just a cold certainty that she would do it again. And again. Until every Zithara warrior who laughed while children died had paid the price. On Earth, people watched the battle reports. Each victory brought grim satisfaction. Not celebration, not yet. Celebration would come when it ended. When justice was served. President Carter met with the families of New Haven victims. She told them what the fleet was doing. Some cried in relief. The broadcast went live across all human channels. President Helen Carter had made a choice. The world needed to see what came next, just like they saw New Haven, just like the Zithara saw their homeworld burn. But this broadcast was different. The cameras showed the weapons activating, showed the sky above Zith Prime beginning to ignite, showed the panic as millions tried to evacuate. Then the feed switched to something else. President Carter's face filled the screen. She sat at her desk, hands folded. Behind her stood representatives from every nation on Earth, united, solemn. "We are not them," she said quietly. Her voice carried to billions of listeners. "The Zithara showed us the deaths of our children, made us watch their cruelty, made us helpless." She paused. "We could do the same. We could show you their civilians dying, could make you watch their children suffer, could become the monsters that they were." She leaned forward. "We will not. We have shown them terror, shown them what it means to fear for their homeworld, shown them that humanity answers cruelty with overwhelming force. But we will not show you death. We will not become what we fought. The broadcast switched to Admiral Blake on his flagship. Behind him, officers stood at attention. Katie Sullivan was there. Amy Foster. Greg Norton. Faces marked by war but not broken by it. The Dominion has surrendered, Blake said. High Commander Vexthor is in custody. Their military is destroyed. Their empire is dissolved. The war is over. Silence fell across Earth, people in homes, in streets, in bars and offices. They had expected celebration, expected cheering. Instead, they felt something else: relief, exhaustion, and questions about what came next. Blake continued. We gave them 24 hours to evacuate. 2 billion left. 2 billion remained. Some could not leave. Some chose to stay. The atmospheric ignition was activated as promised. Casualties are estimated in the millions. He did not flinch from the number, did not justify it, did not apologize for it. We did what was necessary. We kept our promise. New Haven has been answered. On Zith Prime, the surface was dying, but deep underground in bunkers built to survive anything, millions of Zithara huddled together. Families, children, elderly. People who had stayed because they had no choice. People who stayed because they believed their government. People who stayed because they did not believe humans would really do it. They were wrong. The air above them burned. Their world was gone. Not destroyed, worse. Made into a tomb where they would slowly die unless someone helped them. Earth's fleet did not leave. Rescue ships moved into orbit. Not warships. Hospital ships, transports, vessels designed to save lives, not take them. Admiral Blake sent a transmission to the bunkers. This is Admiral Richard Blake of the United Earth Fleet. Your government surrendered. The war is over. We are here to evacuate survivors. Transmit your locations and we will send rescue teams. At first, silence. The Zithara expected a trick. Expected the humans to find them and finish what they started. Why would their enemy save them? Then the first bunker transmitted coordinates. Then another. Then hundreds. Desperation overcame suspicion. They were dying. The humans were their only hope. Katie Sullivan volunteered for rescue duty. She put down her weapons and picked up medical supplies. Boarded a transport heading to the surface. Rachel went with her. Neither spoke during the descent. The bunker doors opened to reveal hundreds of Zithara civilians. Families huddled together. Children crying. Adults staring with fear and confusion. These were not warriors. Not soldiers. Just people who made bad choices or no choices at all. Katie looked at them, saw a Zithara child, maybe 7 years old, clinging to his mother. She thought of her nephews, remembered their faces, remembered watching them die. Part of her wanted to turn around, wanted to leave them here, wanted them to feel what she felt. She stepped forward instead, offered her hand to the mother. Come on, we are getting you out. The Zithara woman stared at the hand, at the human who had come to save them, at the person whose people had every reason to let them die. Slowly, hesitantly, she took it. They loaded hundreds onto the transport. Katie helped carry children too small to walk in the low air. Helped elderly who could not move quickly. Spoke calmly to people who flinched from her touch. She did it because it was right. Not because it was easy. Rachel worked beside her, silent and efficient. Later in the transport heading back to the fleet, she spoke. I thought I would feel different. Different how? Katie asked, satisfied. Like we won. Rachel looked at her hands, hands that had fired weapons, hands that had helped children today. I just feel empty, Katie understood. Revenge does not bring them back. It just makes sure they did not die for nothing. On Earth, people watched the rescue operations, saw human soldiers helping Zithara civilians, saw doctors treating wounded enemies, saw the same species that had fought so brutally now working to save lives. Some people were angry, called it weakness, said the Zithara should be left to die, said mercy was betrayal of the dead. President Carter addressed those voices. We fight when we must. We show no mercy to those who harm children. We destroy those who threaten our future. But when the fight ends, we choose who we become. We choose to be better than our pain. Her approval ratings dropped. She did not care. Some decisions were right even when they were unpopular. High Commander Vexthor sat in a cell on Earth. He had been transported there in chains, treated for his injuries from Katie's railgun shot, given food and water. He expected torture, expected execution. expected humans to become what he was. Instead, they gave him a trial. The International Criminal Court convened for the first time since the war began. Representatives from every nation attended. The trial was broadcast across all human worlds and to the surviving Zethera territories. The evidence was simple. The video of New Haven, 6 hours of massacre, the orders that Vexthor gave, the laughter that was recorded, the pride he showed when threatening humanity. His defense argued he was following Dominion law, that by their standards the attack was justified, that different species had different rules of war. The prosecution's response was simple. They showed the faces of 15,000 dead. They read names, ages, dreams that would never happen. Then they asked one question. Does any law, any rule, any tradition justify this? Vexthor was found guilty. The sentence was life imprisonment. Not execution, not torture, prison, where he would spend every day watching the footage of New Haven, followed by footage of human soldiers rescuing Zethara civilians, every single day. For the rest of his life, his punishment was understanding what he destroyed, understanding what humanity chose not to become. Lieutenant Amy Foster returned to Earth with her squadron. They had lost 8 pilots, 8 friends, 8 people who would never see home again. She attended their funerals, stood at attention while families cried, felt the weight of survival when others did not. At the service for her wingman, Danny's mother approached her, the old woman whose son had died at New Haven, whose memory had driven Amy through the war. Did you make them pay? The woman asked. Amy thought about the question. About the Zethara ships destroyed, the Empire broken, the homeworld burning. Yes, good. The woman hugged her. Now come home. Really come home. Do not let the war keep you even though it ended. Amy tried. She returned to her apartment. Tried to resume a normal life. Found that normal was impossible. Every loud noise made her reach for weapons that were not there. Every night brought dreams of combat. Every crowd made her look for threats. She was not alone. Thousands of veterans struggled with the same thing. Earth's government established treatment programs, support groups, counseling. They did not abandon those who fought. Captain Greg Norton retired from active service. He had led more combat missions than any commander in human history, destroyed more enemy ships than he could count, kept more of his people alive than anyone thought possible. Now he spoke at military academies, teaching the next generation. Not how to fight, how to know when to stop fighting. War is easy, he told young cadets. Any fool can pull a trigger. Any idiot can destroy. The hard part is knowing when you have won, knowing when to extend a hand instead of a fist. That is what makes us human. That is what makes us better. Agent Chris Dalton and Nicole Price received medals for their intelligence work. They attended the ceremony, accepted the recognition, then went back to work. Not hunting Zethara anymore, helping rebuild what the war destroyed. They worked with Zethara diplomats now, former enemies sitting across tables, planning a future. It was awkward, painful. Neither side trusted the other, but they tried, because the alternative was more war. The 17 children who survived New Haven were brought home to Earth. They had lost everything: family, home, innocence. The world embraced them. Families offered adoption. Schools offered education. Therapists offered help. Sophie Lane, the youngest survivor, was 6 when the attack happened, 7 when she returned to Earth. Too young to understand politics, too young to understand war, old enough to remember her mother dying to save her. A couple from Seattle adopted her. They had lost their own daughter at New Haven, a teacher named Victoria who believed in building the future among the stars. Sophie would never replace her. But she could be loved, could be given a chance to heal. On the anniversary of New Haven's fall, Earth held a memorial service. The journey to Zith Prime took 3 weeks at maximum speed. Admiral Blake used the time to plan every detail of the assault. This would not be a quick strike like the others. This was the final message, the one that would end the war or doom humanity to endless conflict. Captain Greg Norton met with his squadron commanders in the briefing room. Maps of the Zethera homeworld covered the walls. Defense stations marked in red. Fleet positions in orange, planetary shields in blue. It looked impossible. They have 3 defensive fleets, Norton said, pointing at the displays. Orbital weapons platforms that could destroy a moon. Planetary shields that have never been breached. 4 billion people on the surface. He looked at his officers. and we are going to make them evacuate their own world. Lieutenant Amy Foster studied the fighter approach vectors. Her squadron would need to punch through defensive fire that could vaporize her craft in microseconds. The odds were bad. She had faced bad odds before. What about civilian casualties? One commander asked. Norton looked at Admiral Blake, who had entered the room silently. The Admiral's face was carved from stone. He had not slept well since New Haven. None of them had. We give them a chance, Blake said. 24 hours to evacuate. We broadcast the truth of what they did. Let their people see it. Let them choose, he paused. But if they stay, if they choose to defend the government that murdered children for entertainment, then they share the consequences. Katie Sullivan checked her railgun systems for the 100th time. The weapon could fire a projectile at 30 kilometers per second. At that speed, the round became a spear of pure kinetic destruction. She had fired it 47 times in combat. Destroyed 12 enemy ships, helped destroy dozens more. It was not enough. Would never be enough. But it was something. Her bunkmate, a young woman named Rachel Gordon, sat on the bed cleaning her sidearm. Rachel had lost her entire family at New Haven. Parents, siblings, grandparents. She enlisted the day after the attack. Do you think they will evacuate? Rachel asked. Katie considered the question. Some will. The ones who did not know what their leaders did. The ones who have children of their own. She loaded a fresh power pack into her weapon station. The rest made their choice when they laughed at our dead. Agent Chris Dalton and his intelligence team had infiltrated Zith Prime weeks ago. They moved through the planet's cities in disguise, planting surveillance devices and mapping defensive systems. It was the most dangerous mission of his career. His partner Nicole Price had hacked into the planetary communication network. When the time came, she would make sure every Zethera citizen saw what Earth wanted them to see. The defensive grid has a weakness, Chris reported to Blake via encrypted channel. The power stations that feed the planetary shield are on the surface. If we take out 3 specific locations, the entire shield drops. Can you mark them for targeting? Blake asked. Already done. Coordinates uploaded to the fleet's targeting computers. Good work. Get out of there. When this starts, I want you off that planet. Chris looked at Nicole. They both knew they would not leave. If the intelligence was wrong, if the coordinates were off by even a meter, human pilots would die trying to breach the shield. They needed to be on the ground to adjust targeting in real time. We will stay until it is done, Chris said. Blake did not argue. He understood. Everyone in the fleet understood. This was bigger than individual survival. This was about making sure New Haven's children did not die for nothing. Earth's fleet arrived at Zith Prime on a clear day. 4 billion Zethera looked up to see human warships filling their sky. Fear spread through the population like fire through dry grass. Admiral Blake did not attack. Not yet. Instead, he broadcast a message on every communication channel on the planet. Nicole's hacking ensured it reached every screen, every device, every communication system in Zethra space. The broadcast showed the New Haven attack. All 6 hours. Unedited. Uncensored. The Zethera government tried to shut it down. Failed. Tried to override it. Failed. Tried to block it. Failed. 4 billion people watched human children die. Watched their military laugh while burning homes. Watched High Commander Vexthor stand in the ruins and threaten all of humanity. Some Zythera had known about the attack. Celebrated it. They saw nothing wrong with the broadcast, but millions had not known. They watched in horror as their government committed atrocities in their name. Watched the faces of dying children. Heard the screams of parents. Saw the cruelty that the Dominion had inflicted. Protests erupted in the cities. Zethara citizens demanded answers from their leaders. Demanded to know why. Demanded justice. The government responded with force. Riot troops moved into the streets. The Dominion's iron fist, usually reserved for conquered species, now fell on their own people. When the broadcast ended, Admiral Blake's face appeared on every screen. He spoke in calm, measured tones. No anger, no rage, just cold certainty. You wanted us to watch our children die, he said. Now you have seen what your leaders did in your name. You have 24 hours to evacuate this planet. Anyone who remains will share the fate you gave to New Haven. This is not a negotiation. This is not a threat. This is a promise. The transmission ended. Chaos consumed Zith Prime. Spaceports overflowed with people trying to leave. Ships launched every minute, packed beyond capacity. Parents carried children. Elderly were helped by neighbors. 2 billion Zithera decided they wanted no part of what came next, but 2 billion remained. Some because they could not leave. Some because they chose to stay and fight. Some because they believed in the Dominion. Some because they had nowhere else to go. The Zithara military launched everything they had. Every warship in the Dominion converged on their homeworld. 237 vessels. Crews filled with warriors who had never known defeat on their own soil. They thought their numbers would overwhelm the humans. They thought the defensive positions made them invincible. They thought wrong. The Battle of Zith Prime began at dawn on the planet's surface. Human fighters led the assault, racing through the gap between orbital stations. Amy Foster's squadron, the New Haven Angels, flew in formation so tight they looked like a single craft. Defensive fire filled the space around them. Missiles, energy weapons, kinetic rounds. The Angels danced through it all. Their gravity manipulation systems made movements that defied physics. They were there, then gone, then behind you, then through impossible angles of attack. Amy's targeting computer locked onto an orbital platform. She fired her entire payload. Missiles streaked away, accelerating until they became streaks of light. The platform's defenses shot down 4, 5, 6. The 7th hit home. The explosion lit up the sky. Metal rained down on Zith Prime's atmosphere, burning like falling stars. Platform 7 is down, she reported. Moving to Platform 8. Captain Norton's battle group engaged the first Zithera fleet. The enemy had numbers. Humanity had technology they could not match. When the Zithera fired plasma weapons, human shields absorbed or deflected them. When humans fired railguns, Zithera shields failed. The battle was brutal. Human ships took damage, some died. The UES Valor took a direct hit to her reactor. She had 93 crew. 12 made it to escape pods. But for every human ship lost, 5 Zithera vessels died. Katie Sullivan's targeting station tracked enemy cruisers with cold precision. She fired, reloaded, fired again. Her rounds punched through armor designed to withstand nuclear weapons. The kinetic energy at those speeds turned matter into plasma. Rachel worked beside her, managing power distribution, keeping the weapons charged, keeping the shields active. They worked in perfect sync. 2 women who had lost everything, now taking it back one shot at a time. The battle raged for 19 hours. Space around Zith Prime became a graveyard. Burning hulks tumbled through orbit. Debris clouds made navigation deadly. The Zithara fleet fought with desperate courage. It was not enough. Dr. Paul Henderson watched from Earth. His weapons, his designs, his creations were tearing apart an empire. Part of him felt sick. Part of him felt satisfaction. Mostly he felt tired. This was necessary, but that did not make it easy. On Zith Prime's surface, the government broadcast defiant messages. They would never surrender. The humans were bluffing. The Dominion would prevail. Their people should take shelter and prepare for victory. Some believed them, went to bunkers, prepared to ride out whatever came next. Others looked at the burning sky and knew better. They ran, tried to find ships, tried to reach shelters deep enough to survive, tried to save their families. High Commander Vexthor commanded the defense from his flagship. He had started this war with an act of cruelty designed to break human spirit. Now he watched his empire crumble, watched his fleets die, watched his homeworld prepare for devastation. Katie Sullivan's targeting computer identified his flagship. The massive warship, pride of the Dominion fleet, was pulling back from the front lines. Running. The commander who had laughed while children died was running. "I have the flagship," she reported to her captain. "Permission to engage. Granted." "Make it count." Katie's hands moved across her controls. The railgun charged. She aimed not for the ship's vital systems, not for a kill shot. She aimed for the command bridge, where Vexthor gave his orders. Where he watched the battle, she fired. The round traveled 10 miles in a fraction of. 10 years passed. A decade since New Haven burned. A decade since humanity went to war. A decade since Earth proved that peace-loving people could become warriors when pushed, and warriors could choose to be peacemakers when the fighting ended. The galaxy was different now. The Dominion's collapse had freed 17 species from servitude. Some formed their own governments. Some joined the Covenant of Stars, the new alliance Earth had proposed, a framework for cooperation instead of conquest. New Haven was rebuilt, not as a memorial, as a living colony, 50,000 people called it home now. Humans. Scythera. Members of species that had never met before the war. They worked together, learned from each other, built something that honored the dead by proving their dream had not died. Katie Sullivan walked through New Haven's Central Plaza. She was 34 now, a senator representing the outer colonies. She had traded her gunnery station for a podium, her weapons for words. The transition had been hard. Some days she still wanted the simplicity of war. Clear enemies, clear solutions. Politics was messier. Compromise was harder than combat. But it mattered more. The memorial stood in the plaza's center. A wall of names. 15,000 people who died here. Their names carved in stone that would last forever. Flowers lay at its base. Fresh ones. People still remembered. Katie placed her own flowers. Blue roses. Her sister's favorite. She came here every year on the anniversary, spoke to names that could not answer, told them about the world they had helped create. We did it, she said softly. Not perfectly. Not easily, but we did it. You would be proud. Or maybe disappointed. Hard to say. But we are trying. Every day we are trying. A figure approached. Crinval, the Zithara ambassador to Earth. He was young for his species. Had been a child during the war. His family evacuated Zith Prime in the first wave. Survived because his mother believed the human warning. Now he dedicated his life to ensuring the peace held. Worked alongside humans. Earned trust through actions, not words. Represented a generation of Zithera who rejected the Dominion's cruelty. Senator Sullivan, he greeted her formally. Then more softly, Katie, she nodded. They had worked together for 5 years now. Started as wary colleagues. Became something like friends. Trust built slowly between former enemies. Your speech today is important, Crinval said. The separatist movement gains strength. Some humans want to reject all Zithera. Some of my people want revenge for Zith Prime. Both sides forget what we built. Katie knew. Political movements on both sides called for separation. Called the Peace Week. Said their people had been betrayed. It was easier to hate than to build. Easier to remember the war than to work for something better. Then we remind them, Katie said. That is why we are here. The ceremony began. Thousands gathered in the plaza. Humans and Zithera together. Some wore military uniforms. Some wore civilian clothes. Some were too young to remember the war. Some would never forget it. President Carter had retired. The new president, David Chen, was a veteran of the war. He lost an arm at the Battle of Zith Prime. Chose to keep it that way. A reminder of what war cost, he spoke first. 10 years ago, Innocence died here. Children who believed the universe was safe. Adults who thought their peaceful expansion would go unchallenged. A colony that dreamed of stars and found nightmares. His voice carried across the plaza. We answered their deaths with fury. With weapons designed to destroy. With a campaign that broke an empire. We did what we had to do. We made them understand they could not hurt us without consequences. He paused. Looked at the memorial wall. But fury was not enough. Vengeance was not enough. When the fighting ended, we had a choice. Become conquerors or become builders. Become the monsters we fought or become something better. Crinval spoke next. His translator made his words clear. I was 8 when the war began. My mother saw the broadcast of New Haven. She knew what my government had done. She took my family and we left our homeworld. His voice cracked slightly. We ran from human vengeance. Found human mercy instead. He gestured to the crowd. Many Zithera did not survive the war. Many deserved their fate. They chose to follow leaders who committed atrocities. They chose to fight when they should have surrendered. But many were innocent. Children like I was. Families who did not know what their government did. His eyes found Katie. Humans could have killed us all. Could have made Zithera extinct. Instead, they saved us. Gave us a chance. Asked only that we earn it. He touched his chest. We are still earning it. Will be for generations. But we are grateful for the chance. Katie stepped to the podium. Looked at faces in the crowd. Young and old. Human and alien. People who lost everything. People born after the war. All connected by this place. This moment. This choice to remember together. I lost my sister here, she said. Lost my nephews. Boys who loved to run through tall grass and catch insects. Who wanted to be explorers when they grew up. Who died screaming while their killers laughed. Silence fell. People leaned forward.
Katie's story was known.
But hearing it still mattered. I enlisted the day after. Learned to kill. Got very good at it. Fired the shot that disabled High Commander Vex Thor's flagship. Destroyed 12 enemy ships. Helped destroy dozens more. She looked at her hands. I became a weapon. Pointed myself at the enemy and pulled my own trigger. She met Crinval's eyes. When the war ended, I was lost. My purpose was vengeance. Vengeance was achieved. What next? She gestured around. This is what next. Building, talking, compromising, working with former enemies. Choosing peace when war would be easier. Katie turned to the memorial. The dead cannot tell us what to do. Cannot tell us if we chose right, so we decide. We honor them by creating the future they died reaching for. A future where species meet as friends instead of enemies. Where colonies thrive instead of burn. Where children play without fear. She faced the crowd again. Some say this is weak. Say we should have conquered the Zithara, made them pay forever. Made them slaves or corpses? Her voice hardened. Those people forget what we fought for. We did not fight to become the Dominion. We fought to ensure no one ever suffers what happened here. Crinval joined her at the podium. Together, human and Zithara, they placed a wreath at the memorial. The symbolism was clear. Former enemies, current allies, future partners. The crowd watched in silence. Some wiped tears. Some stood rigid with emotion they could not express. Some still struggled with the sight of humans and Zithara together. But they watched. That was enough. After the ceremony, Katie and Crinval walked through the rebuilt colony. New buildings stood where ruins had been. Farms stretched across valleys. Children played in parks. Life continued, thrived, grew beyond tragedy. They stopped at a school. Human and Zithara children learned together, played together, spoke each other's languages. They did not carry the weight of history, did not remember the war, knew only peace. Do you think it will last? Crinval asked. Katie watched the children. I do not know. Peace is harder than war. Takes more work, more patience, more forgiveness. She smiled slightly. But we have to try. If we do not, then everyone who died here died for nothing. A girl ran up to them. Human, maybe 8 years old. She looked up at Crinval with curiosity instead of fear. Are you really from another planet? Crinval knelt down. I am. From a world very far away. Cool, the girl said. Then she ran back to her friends, already forgetting the moment. Katie laughed. It felt good. Felt like hope. That is why it will work. The next generation does not carry our scars. Back on Earth, Admiral Richard Blake gave a lecture at the military academy. He was old now. Gray hair, tired eyes, but his mind stayed sharp. His lessons stayed relevant. What is humanity's greatest strength? He asked the young cadets, hands shot up. Technology. Determination. Unity. Blake shook his head. All true, but not the answer I seek. He pulled up footage from the war. Ships burning, planets falling. The might of Earth's military on display. This is strength. But not our greatest. He switched to different footage. Rescue ships at Zith Prime, doctors treating wounded enemies. Humans and Zithara working together. This is our greatest strength. The ability to choose restraint. The wisdom to know when to stop fighting. The courage to extend a hand instead of a fist. A cadet raised her hand. But sir, did not that restraint weaken us? Could not the Zithara rebuild and attack again? Blake smiled. Could they? Yes, will they? No, because we gave them something more powerful than fear. We gave them a reason to choose peace. We showed them that cooperation brings better rewards than conquest. He leaned forward. Fear creates temporary compliance. Respect creates lasting alliance. We earned respect, the lesson continued. Blake teaching the next generation not how to win wars, how to prevent them. How to be strong enough that no one challenged you, wise enough that strength did not define you. Dr. Paul Henderson stood in his laboratory. The weapons he designed were now museum pieces, displayed as reminders of capability, warnings of what humanity could do if pushed, but never used again. His new projects focused on different technologies, medical advances, agricultural improvements, terraforming equipment, building tools instead of weapons, creating instead of destroying. He thought about his niece sometimes, the girl who loved stars, who died reaching for them, who would never know what her death helped create.